Thank you so much. Thank you. And welcome to today's webinar, where we will get to explore this topic of leadership effectiveness. And in particular, just look at the behaviors that drive effective leadership to deliver results. But before I get into that, let me start by introducing myself. So my name is Cheryl Whitaker. I'm married to Greg, and we have got two children, Oliver and Catherine, and I always like to share them as well, because I think, I don't know the people on this call, but I think sometimes we get caught up in identity as just being the role that we do. So I think it's important that we think about our lives outside of work as well, because all of that shapes us to be who we are today. So I'm really looking forward to the next hour with each of you, and I hope that you can take something away with you today, either that you get to use in your personal life or that you get to use in your professional journeys. I am very passionate about helping individuals, teams, and leaders to be the best version of who they are. And I think that's fueled a lot of my work that I do today and my own personal career history. So let me just share a little bit about my professional journey. So I did a BCom through UNISA, and then I went to Mercantile Lisbon Bank as part of their graduate program. And I started that doing the rotations and landed up in HR, and actually found that that's where my passion was going to be. So that led me to do my honors in industrial psychology. And then I moved to Jasco Electronics, thinking maybe I think I want to do a bit of sales. So I did a year of sales and just found myself straight back into the people space. And so that then prompted me to do my my master's in industrial psychology. I then went over to the UK, and I'm very grateful that I got to have a variety of different opportunities there. So worked for the National Maritime Museum, Crown Prosecution Service, Charity Commission, and then my last role there was Transport for London. And while living there, I met my husband and we had our two kids. We then came back to South Africa, and I worked for 7 years with KFC. As their most recent role there was as their HR director. And while I was there, I actually was part of rolling out a program where we used a tool called Heart Styles. And Heart Styles actually became a huge passion for me because it's a behavior tool. And a lot of what you're going to see today is a lot based on that. So we started it at CEO level and rolled it right throughout the organization. Heart Styles, as I say, is a behavior tool that really gives you an opportunity to say, well, go on my own. And so you see me today as changing perspectives. And I'm very grateful that I get to do this work, hugely passionate about coaching and about leadership facilitation, and then obviously been having an opportunity to do things like this. So the reason I these slide in particular is I come today with over 20 years of experience as an HR professional, with extensive experience in character development, leadership development, and culture. But also I've gained experience both in South Africa and globally across multiple industries, which has really broadened and deepened my knowledge and experience over the years. And I hope that today I can share a little bit of that with you. So let's get started. Here's this question: does leadership behavior matter? And I want to think about this from a different perspective. So ultimately, I assume that most of you here work either for an organization or you work in your own personal capacity. You've got your own business. And that means that in order for your organization to be fully functional and able to operate in a very competitive world, they need, and you need to, as a business, drive operational excellence. which we see through profit, we see through your making sure that your shareholders are happy, essentially. And so a lot of our focus previously has been more on the functional skills. So do I have the knowledge and experience to do the job that I'm applying for? But research has shown over the years, and I think we can just see it in top performing organizations, that those organizations that focus not just on this functional on the functional skills of its people, but they focus on understanding and driving and investing in the smart of its people. So that's people skills, that's on task skills, such as, knowledge to be able to put a strategy together, or the systems that you need to operate with, or customer management. Those are all things that we learn often outside of a university degree or a certificate. They're often on the job skills that we have. So, so that there's there's the smart, which is really important, but equally important to that is the heart. And the heart is around this effective leadership. Do I have the EQ to understand what's going on for me and for the people around me? Do I have insights into my behavior? Do I know what the impact of that behavior is, not only on myself, but also on the people that I engage with? Am I open to feedback? How do I give feedback to other people? And so all of those, I would say that this heart plus the smart, plus, of course, your functional knowledge, which is absolutely key, are the three key ingredients that drives, first of all, I want to say leadership excellence, because fantastic leaders are those that have heart plus smart plus functional knowledge. And those fantastic leaders will have strong bench, they will have strong employee engagement scores, and they will often be rated as contributing to the organizations that I really want to work for, which actually then plays into this operational excellence, which, as I said, it's making sure, do we have strong sales? What do our clients think of us? What does customer feedback say? Are we a strong brand? Are there increased profits? What do our shareholders say? And is our workforce aligned to the company's overall vision and strategy? So does leadership behavior really matter? I would say absolutely. And I guess that's why I'm so passionate about this and about this topic. So it's important then that we start to understand behavior. What does effective leadership look like? And what are the behaviors that are seen if we really want to drive overall business results? So maybe before I move on, I just want to say that I will be keeping someone saying that video or my connection, I'm going to turn my video off. I believe that my internet connection isn't very good. So please do let me know if that's better now without video on. Okay, great. I'm getting feedback that that's better. Thank you very much. Thanks for that. And apologies. It's typical here because we can't always foresee these things. All right, what I am going to be doing is inviting you in the Q&A to, as we go through, I wanted to try and be as interactive as we can, but appreciate that it's not always so easy when we've got a big group of people together. I think we're sitting over 70 participants so far. Maybe we'll be having some more joining us. But let's look at this question of character. So, what is character? And I'm going to pause here. And before I even get into it, I'm going to invite you to please just in the Q&A, maybe write down, what do you think character is? What is character? What do you understand by the word character? So I've just opened up my Q&A. And yeah, please just take a second to actually write down what you think character is. Okay, integrity to your principles. Lovely. Thank you, Karen. What else? So qualities of an individual. Very nice. Personality. Qualities. It's a combination of values and personality, the way we think and behave. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you for those that have are putting comments in. So it's the way you behave and carry yourself based on your personality, the person that you are. I love that. A combination of values and ideas. You're wonderful. Thank you. Thank you to those that have put in. So if you Google character, it will say that it is the character, that character is the mental and moral qualities of an individual. So character is really about how we continuously behave and thrive or survive in life, particularly when we're experiencing periods of turbulence. So I always say that, it's interesting what our character is when we are going through periods of turbulence, when we might be going through a stressful time, or when we just feel the pressure of life at that point in time. And so character is also then about who you are and who and how you choose to behave when no one is watching. And it takes character to build character. So I'm going to just share with you a few of my favorites, I guess, just quotes on this word character. Just want to invite you to take a second and read these. They are the ones that I use when I run this Heart Styles workshop that I spoke about. And then because for me, they're just, each one is so relevant, but depicts this word character. What do we mean by character? What do we mean by behavior? So just take a second and ask you and invite you to have a look at these words and see if there's any one of them that actually resonates maybe a little bit more with you than another one. I always think, this characters, be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. Or our character is what we do when we think no one else is watching or looking. Character is how you treat those who can do nothing for you. I mean, that one really hits me often. And character is like a tree, and reputation is like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing. And then the last one I've got there is talent is a gift, but character is a choice. And so, I want to say here that, why is character so important? I really believe that character is important because ultimately our character choices impact our own individual life experiences each day, both at home and at work. Our character hugely influences how others experience us on a daily basis. And then I also think, our character and the character of others combine to create a culture. And for me, that's really important that we think about that, because how often do people say the culture here has changed? Or we go, what is this word culture? And we can't always say, well, people find it hard to say, what do we mean by culture? And culture is actually the character and the character of others combined. It is, what do you experience when you walk into a building? How do people treat each other? Do you walk in and see people actually greeting? Do you see people chatting or shouting or getting angry or cross? How do you deal with conflict? So all of those behaviors will feed into culture. And this is incredibly important, particularly in a work context. And then lastly, I want to say that our character determines how we get things done as a person, as a parent, as a partner, a friend, a coach, a leader. No matter what role you play in life, and we all play multiple roles, character is hugely important. So hopefully we are starting to get a sense of, is behavior important? Are our behaviors important to driving effective leadership, which ultimately would impact how we achieve the results of an organization? So I want us to then think about effective and ineffective leaders. There are lots of leaders out there. You are leaders in your own right. Some people say to me, well, I don't lead anyone, so I'm not a leader. And I say, no, you are a leader. A leader is anybody who has influence over another person. So we are all leaders in our own right. And so, yeah, there will be effective leaders and there will be ineffective leaders. I'm going to invite you again to just think about a great leader you've had, or someone maybe that you have admired over history. So I'm going to pull up a picture now that's going to have a number of different leaders. And these leaders, some are going to stand out for you as being very effective. And they might have been effective at getting results, but not effective at leading people, or they might have been effective at doing both, or they might have been really bad at leading people and really haven't got great results. But I want to invite you to also think about who's had an impact on you over your life. And as you consider that, the invitation is then to maybe just use the chat box and list the characteristics and behaviors of effective leaders, those leaders that you really admire or that you have experienced for yourself. And again, just using the Q&A, if you could just write down some of the characteristics and behaviors of these great leaders. And I'm just going to keep an eye on the Q&A. I'm going to see if I can put my video on again. Please, I'm inviting you to, please let me know if my video stability has gone off again. I just feel like then you don't feel like you're just hearing my voice. Okay, so is people ready to think about leaders that you've had, great leaders that you've either had or that you admire, and what are the qualities of those leaders? Maybe just in the box, if you could just list one or two of those behaviors. So an encourager, lovely. Sacrificial, wow. That they lead by example. They're a good listener. Very good. Empathetic, I love that word. Caring. They encourage, sure, they do. We know those leaders here. They reduce division, sure. Empathy, integrity. Lead by examples coming up quite a bit. Got strong emotional intelligence. There's a lot of humility, servanthood. Wow, I love these. Self-awareness. As I read these, I'm hoping you get the sense that you can almost picture these leaders that you've had. They're visionary. walk the talk. Very nice. They're a coach. And that word, so often in a lot of organizations move away from this title of saying my role is, HR manager, supply chain manager, to going actually coach, because of that advocacy for peace, communication. I love that. My mother, who's a good listener, beautiful, compassionate. Okay, so I'm seeing some really wonderful words, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's, put some words down here. Collaborator, motivator. Thank you. So we can resonate with these effective, great, inspiring leaders. Now I'm going to invite you on the flip of that, and think about now an ineffective leader that you've had. And you hear I use the word ineffective, and there's a reason I use the word ineffective, and I'm going to come to that just now. But think about ineffective leaders that either you've had or again that you've observed or seen throughout history. And in the chat box, I'm going to invite you again to just list the qualities or traits of those ineffective leaders that you've seen. What are those behaviors? What are those traits that you see? And I'll just keep an eye on the Q&A. So what are some of the things that we see on ineffective leaders? Okay, so indecisive, weak, hear without listening, poor communication, dictator, dogmatic, autocratic, pride, serve their own interests, lack of integrity, lack of empathy, not engaging, arrogant, that know-it-all attitude, indecisive, insensitive, not compassionate, aggressive, communicates less vaguely, they're quite boastful, inflexible. Sure, and then when we read these words, we feel horrible. Hey, we go, sure, is that me? Could that be me? Does that sound like me? I hope not. But the reality is, there we go. Quick to blame. Thank you. I'm still seeing some words coming in. Unfair. Okay, wonderful. And just take some time to think about, well, what are these words for me? But what I want to encourage you with now is really that the key to understanding effective and ineffective behavior is getting us to start to think about, well, where is my energy focused? So if we look at this, you'll see two opposite ends. Is my energy consumed by worrying more about what others say, what others think, what others feel? Or am I more in the space of personal? Is my energy just consumed by me, myself, what I think, what I want? So we see two opposite sides of the focus area, personal and others. And then you'll see that I've got effective behavior and I've got ineffective behavior. And so you might be thinking, okay, what is she going on about here? But here's what I want to say. So if I think about some of the words, and I was trying to write some of them down as we went along, but let's think about somebody who is ineffective and they're very focused on others. That person, what potentially could make them effective is that they're so worried about the opinion of others, that their whole energy is focused on others, that there's this self-limiting fear. I'm not going to speak up. It's better if you tell me what to do. So we know those leaders that can't make decisions, that avoid making or giving input, or you actually sit there and you go, does this person really know what they want? Are they easily offended? So, you give them some feedback and they're highly offended by what you say. So they're very focused on others and it's ineffective. Or it might be ineffective, but it's in the space of I. And here I use that word I, and a lot of you mentioned that in your words. You used weak, autocratic, ego, pride. They serve their own needs. I've got dogmatic. Actually, there were lots of great words. So you can hear in this space, they're ineffective because they're completely focused on myself and I. Or we can be effective, and we can be effective in the personal space. So here I want someone used the word humility. They're humble. So I always think about humility in the space of I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. There was this word of, there's a massive, something flying very low overhead. But this effective in a personal space is very effective when we know what we are strong at and what we're not strong at. And we're okay to say that. And we want to transform and we want to grow and we want to achieve, but not achieve at the expense of others. We genuinely want to be the best version of who we can be. And then we can also be effective and focused on others, where we are intentional about growing others, listening to others, really wanting them to be the best version of who they can be. And so you used words like we encourage, we coach, we empathetic. There was words around caring. And so I hope you can start to see that there's effective, focused on others. We really want to grow others. We want them to be the best person of who they can be. There's at the same time, if we're going to grow others and love others, that we've been very clear on who am I? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? I need to be okay to say I don't have all the answers, but I'm still a great leader because I'm going to make sure that I can see you good at this. And I know you're good at that. And I'm going to encourage you to do it. But our ineffective behaviors sometimes can really hold us back. And the other people start to experience us as dogmatic, as opinionated, as being prideful, egotistical, or not able to make decisions. And so if we think about behavior as almost being like an iceberg, we only see the tip of the behaviors in someone. We don't actually get to know what's going on for people underneath the surface. And what is it that might be driving those ineffective behaviors? And so I want to share with you something called the 3 I's of behavior. And this is something I use every day in my own personal space, and I use it when I'm coaching and when I'm facilitating different programs, because here's what I really believe. As individuals, all of our intentions are good. I really don't believe that we intend to come across as dogmatic, as egotistical, as not being able to make decisions. Our intentions are good. But it's our intentions often that, and if you think about intention, I just want to say, it is what are we trying to achieve through our behavior? That's essentially what an intention is. And our intentions come from good places. But here's our reality. We have different impressions. Either we have an impression of our behavior, our current behavior as we see it, or other people experience us, as I said, through the tip of that behavior. It's how they receive us. It's how they experience us and how we experience ourselves, which then ultimately leads to an impact. So for every experience or for every type of behavior we have, there's an impact of that behavior. And it's then saying, well, what is the impact of that behavior on myself and others? So let me give you an example. My intention as a leader may be, I really have an intention to make sure that my team is the best that it can be. my intention is to help you grow and to really be excellent at what you're doing. Okay, that's my heart's intention. But your impression of me through my behaviors might be I'm very controlling. You give me some work and I check it and I change it. But my intention is we're going to be the best. We're going to be brilliant. And I want you to be seen as being the best and be seen as doing an amazing job. But what's the impact of that? You don't trust me. You see me as totally controlling. You don't feel like I matter and that what my input is or what my work is has any value. And so I might see high levels of staff turnover, or my employee engagement scores might be really low. And I'm going, but I don't understand why, because my intention is really good. And so we can see how intention plus impression plus impact are all very, very important to understanding where we are and in understanding our behavior. And there's a lot more that goes in with this. And I don't have time. I want to make sure that we're going to have time for questions. And as I say, when we do heart styles, I go into this a lot. And even this next, but I did say as part of the overview of this webinar that you would get, it's trying to understand, well, where do my behaviors come from? Why do I do the things that I do? And we don't have enough time to go into a lot of detail. I know I'm referencing Heart Styles as a program a lot, as a workshop. I do a lot of other work around Hogan and insights, and they're all very powerful. But I believe that Heart Styles gives a lot of insights into our behavior. And so we run it typically as a day and a program, and then we use it. I work with a lot of organizations where we can go off site for 3 or 4 days and we really unpack and peel away the onion at this. But let me just try and give you a little bit of insight into why we do the things that we do. So I'm going to ask you to all think. If you need to close your eyes, do it. I can't see you, but I want you to just imagine that you are at a restaurant. It's early evening, you're with a friend, and you're just having a drink and enjoying the evening. And you and your friend are having great chat, and you've ordered some food, and you're just enjoying the time together. The environment is calm. It's giving you a sense of peace. And then the waiter comes to you and says, I'm really sorry, but we are running very late and the kitchen is extremely busy. And I'm really sorry, but your food hasn't even started yet. And you're thinking, what? We've been waiting here for 45 minutes and we still haven't got our food and I need to be leaving soon to get home. I want you to just write in the Q&A again, what goes on for you in that situation? What is your first reaction that you experience when the waiter comes to you and says, I'm really sorry, we haven't even started your food yet. The kitchen is extremely busy. Can I just see a few? Okay, I'm angry and I'm irritated. Very good. What else? Disappointed. Self. I will ask how long it will still take. I feel very impatient. Hangry. My daughter always uses that word. Mom, I'm hangry. I have to ask, how long is it going to take? I'm very frustrated. I'm starting to get anxious. I decide if they will pay, if I will then pay, and maybe I'm just going to leave. So it's fine. And I go to McDonald's. Okay, good. I'm seeing lots of different, I get another glass of wine and I understand that these things happen. So here we go. I can see there's more comments coming in. So this is the reality. Why do we do the things that we do? We all had exactly the same situation, but the behavior is different. And the question then is why? And it comes down often to our thinking. Our thinking is what drives behavior in that moment. Now, I'm using a very simplistic example here, and please understand that there's a lot more that goes into this. But typically our thinking will come through from triggers. So we either triggered because we maybe have experienced something similar to this in the past around service, or and it may be even bigger triggers. We might hold certain templates in place. Or we might have a truth in our mind that will drive that behavior. But the reality is our behavior is driven a lot by our thinking, past experiences, by things that we, but yeah, I want to say past experience is probably the biggest one, because that's where our templates sit. It's where we get triggered from. Sometimes knowingly or unknowingly, where that comes from. And we form truths in our mind. We form truths that say, let me use a silly example. Do all dogs bite? Do all dogs bite? No. But if my truth is that all dogs bite and I see a dog running towards me, I am going to believe that that dog is going to bite me. I might have certain truths around what my expectation is around going out, or I might have experienced certain things that have really become either I'm okay to sit back and relax and just order another glass of wine, or I might go, it's okay, and I'm going to leave and I'm going to go somewhere else, or I'm going to fly off the handle and I'm going to be so angry and disappointed. And there's a lot more, as I say, that sits in this thinking. But if you think about our brains, I'm going to do a very quick analogy. A colleague of mine did this, and I love the analogy, Lauren Davis. And if you want to have a look at her work, she's really got some great insights and work. But she explains the brain in terms of from a hand demonstration. And I'm going to try and explain our thinking very quickly for you from the hand, using my hand as a demonstration. So over here, if you were to think about this part, this my thumb as my hypothalamus, this part of the brain is there to react. It is the most primitive part of my brain, and its function, as I said, is to react. It is also there for survival. And so this is where my fight, flight, or freeze comes from. Okay, so think about the things that we're doing the most at the moment. You might be blinking, you're sitting on a chair, you breathing. That's stuff that keeps you alive without us even thinking about it. That's a part of the hypothalamus. But it's also the part of the brain that if I see a fight, or somebody comes running towards me, I might fight, I might run, or I might freeze. That's a hypothalamus. We then get what we have, the limbic system of the brain. And the limbic system is where we store all of our emotional memories. And we don't store everything. It is only things that are significant and or repetitive. And so the limbic part of the brain is that filing cabinet. Okay, it's filed away something that is significant or repetitive. And so that part of the brain is the limbic system. We react, what am I reacting to? And it says, have I experienced this before? And if I have experienced it before, then we go into my neocortex, which goes, well, what is my strategy to cope, to deal with this situation? And if my strategy has always been to keep quiet, to avoid the situation, tell me what to do, or to make sure that you know that I'm in control, that I know what I'm doing, that I've got this, that might have been my strategy to cope. Or my neocortex, another way of being able to say, no, actually, have I experienced this before? Fight, flight, freeze. Then I call this flip my lid. because this wants to react, my neocortex needs to go, no, let's provide and let's create another strategy maybe that we can go, actually, I don't need to react in an aggro way. I don't need to make everyone know that I'm the best. I don't need to hide away from this decision. I can actually be okay with not knowing it all. Or I can spend time with my team, growing them and developing them. But we have to be able to explore what is my template and what is my truth around that. And is this the exact same situation that I've experienced before or not? So that's a very quick overview of the brain. But if we want to move from this effective to ineffective behaviors, and sorry, I'm going to just say I go into quite a lot of detail with people going, why do we do the things that we do? It comes from a place of either I've been hurt in the past, that limbic system, that is that emotional storage. I might have either had a wound. I might have had something happen to me in life that shouldn't have happened to me. Or I might not have had something that I should have had, a lack of. And I make myself vows in both of these. I will either make a vow that I will never be hurt by that again, or I make a vow that I will never be without. And it's those vows that drive us into certain behaviors, often in an ineffective space. But if we want to move to this above the line, what I call above this effective way of working, we need to stop. We need to breathe. Because breathing slows down this hypothalamus, this reaction of fight, flight, or freeze. And it calms it down and says, is this really the situation? Is this really what I want to react to? Or is there another way that I get to behave? And that is how we need to start to change and take notice of our behaviors. A lot of them are very learned behaviors that have got you to where you are today. And they've made you maybe very effective and really great. And you delivered incredible results. But I want you to go back and think about, well, what is the impact? Am I exhausted? Am I stressed? Am I unhappy? And what's happening for my people around me? Because all those behaviors, really the behaviors that I want. And if we know that effective leaders are the ones that are humble, they're really interested in others, they want to show a lot of empathy, they want to grow and develop and nurture others, it means that there has to be space for people other than just me. It means I have to let other people into my world and be okay with not being the best, but I can be my best. And so this for me is really what gets us to move to more effective behavior. And I am very aware of time, and I want to make sure that we can have some time for Q&As. So let me maybe end by saying, I really think that effective leadership is possible. We all have it in us, but we all have life stories and life journeys that have impacted us. And we have then over time learned some behaviors that is just a way of coping, a strategy. But I think that effective leadership is really understanding my EQ and IQ. They need to be balanced. Plus this heart space around being vulnerable, being okay with not knowing it all, being open to feedback, being a bit more vulnerable, growing myself, nurturing and being authentically myself. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes courage to step out of fear. It takes courage to step away from just being all about me and moving into behaviors that are more effective. So I'm going to stop there. I am going to be checking the Q&A, but I do want to just pause here and start to look at questions. So if anybody has got any questions that they would like to ask me, I'm going to do my best to answer those. So I'm going to pause there. Are there any questions or any insights, or if anybody's got anything that they want to share that resonates with them, please use this as an opportunity to do that as well. And I'm very happy if someone wants to, I'm assuming that we can do this, that you can answer that live and unmute yourself and come on. I'm very open to that. Are there any questions?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can pick your hand, raise your hand up, and I'll open the floor to you to ask questions to Cheryl.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, it's not Bilkis, it's Tanween. I linked up with Bilkis's the email. Just on what I've gathered thus far is it's mostly the behavioral is basically about our learned behavior, and it also taps into our insecurities, our fears, and also as to our emotional intelligence, because we might know the job, everything that goes with the technical knowledge, but I think it's more the part that we reacting to the EQ side, and that is when it takes one to behavior of even a 10-year-old, so to speak, you know, or or the silo mentality type of thing, where the fear factor overrides, where one is not able to engage with oneself, with one team or anyone else, because it's the insecurity, the fear is driving it, and that is how a person can feel those feelings. That's my sense.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing that, and just the clarification in that. So, you know, I think as our behavior is often driven, to your point, by a learned strategy of a way to cope. And often, I've got a number of clients, and when we go into coaching, often the behaviors come from something that's happened when they were really young. And this isn't true of everyone. Please, I'm not saying it's true of everybody. But if it's been a significant event or a repetitive event in their life, and it can be something recent, that thing can either drive this self-limiting fear. So I don't want to speak up. I've learned that it's easier to keep quiet. Or I have clients that come sometimes and they've been in a family where, take twins, one is very successful and one struggles a lot more, or maybe not as good at the sport or qualification, you know, at school. And so that person's always felt like they need to be the best, just to be noticed, to be seen. And so there's behaviors that are often learned, and then they come and they show themselves up in our day-to-day. And we've got to think about, are those effective really? Do I really want to not speak up, or let fear hold me back from being myself? So I hope I heard your thing is more clarification, and I want to say, yes, I agree with you. And I think what's important is that we go on a journey to think about, where are my behaviors coming from, and are they effective? And are they the behaviors that I really want to be displaying? Does that help you a little bit with that?
Yes, thank you.
So in going to the pay funds, income finance, pay funds.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Was there a question there?
Yeah. Bilkis, is there someone else that has a question in your group?
May I ask, it's me again, it's Tanveen. Okay, so the only other way one can rectify this is having reflections or something on that scale, so that one is able to highlight the triggers, like you've mentioned earlier on, and with the triggers, how one is reacting, and having those kind of a reflection, and perhaps having a colleague or a buddy, in someone that one could bounce this off to try and unlearn those bad, which I would call bad behaviors, because if that's a bad behavior, imagine the impact it can have on one's team, and one doesn't realize that. Would you think that is the best way to approach it, to try and unlearn that?
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for that question. So maybe just a few thoughts on that. And with all of these, you want to unpack it a bit more. So first of all, I want to say that I really believe that it's a journey. If I think about my career, in particular when I joined the KFC, when we really started, I mean, my experience of HR was always that you go in, you do your job and you leave, like organizations. But when you're in an organization that really wants to focus on behavior, I think that's when you start to go, okay, I need to take some cognizance of what my behavior is. And so that's what I'm going to start by saying, it's a behavior. I've been on this journey for 9-10 years and I'm still learning. But how have I gone about doing that, and how do I encourage people to do this? I would say find yourself a truth partner, as you've said. Find somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you can say, you know what, I've noticed this behavior, or ask them, what behaviors do you experience in me that you don't see as great? And ask them to be honest with you, and then ask them to hold you accountable as you try and move into demonstrating different types of behaviors. I would say get a coach if you are really struggling to understand what are those behaviors that I need to work on. Feedback, if you have in your organization processes for giving feedback, that's a really powerful way to go and say, okay, so what are people saying about me? What are my behaviors? And really take time to look at that, because often we get defensive or we start to rationalize the feedback that we get. But if we can take a step back and go, okay, what is the feedback saying? And then start to ask ourselves, well, where might that be coming from? What's driving that? Is it a place of fear? Is it a place of a bit of pride? And really going and saying, well, where is this coming from? And then you've said a good word there around reflection. I really think reflecting on your day through journaling. So journaling is one of the most powerful things you can adopt, because you're taking your thinking and you're actually writing down what's happened. So you can journal on, what was my day like? What went well, what didn't go so well. For some people, they might want to do it in the space of, if this is a thing I'm really struggling with, okay, well, what triggered that today? And was there another way I could behave, or is there another way I could have dealt with that? And so we start to see the patterns that might be happening and what's driving that. So reflection is very important. Some people, meditation is very good. So just calming and quietening the mind, so that we stop just reacting and all this noise that's going on. I think our minds are like snow globes. They've been shaken up and we're reacting to everything. How do I quieten things down so that I'm not in the state of fight or flight all the time? So yeah, I think you've said a few things there. Truth partner, get some feedback, do some journaling where you can do reflections, and then some meditation is always very good in terms of, and people get a bit freaked out. What's this word meditation? I often say it's just be quiet with yourself. Just allow yourself to be without thinking about the next 10,000 things that I need to achieve in my day. Okay, so hopefully that helps you a bit with that. Any other questions? We've got a hand up.
Fine. Now, in a workplace, what would be the best strategy in a workplace to try and bring about this type of paradigm shift? Because you have different leaders with different leadership styles, yet one could be at the level of, obviously, the EQ, IQ do differ, and it was also personality driven as to what is their triggers, etc. But to try and create a space within the workforce, whether it's your fellow colleagues or whether it's your team, how can one bring about that type of change?
And very good question, and thank you for that. My honest view is that I think it's got to be brought in from the top. So senior leadership needs to accept that we want to focus on behavior and creating a space where we are prepared to give and receive feedback, and where we are going to be open to saying, well, what are the behaviors that we want to be known for? If you remember, I said culture is really a combination of all of your behaviors in the workplace. So I think you would need a strategy for a rollout in terms of going and saying, okay, well, what are the behaviors that we want to drive and to be known for? Then it is, how do we have space for feedback? Is it written feedback? Is it open feedback? What are the meetings, the one-on-one conversations looking like? Are those conversations spaces where you give feedback and you receive feedback on, I saw you show up like this, or I know you're really trying to work on this behavior, but something's going on. What's happening for you? So I think there needs to be a really thought out way of addressing this. Now, if you're a small team, it's maybe a lot quicker to be able to do that. I think you just, as a collective, need to be very clear on what are the behaviors we want. Now, when we're in ineffective behavior, and I'm saying this for everyone's benefit, we all do them. We all demonstrate ineffective behaviors. I honestly cannot say in my career today that I've ever experienced someone only operating from a place of effective. Everybody has those ineffective behaviors. And so if we know that, we've got to be able to go, I'm not going to finger point at everyone and say, you did this, you did that. That's not going to drive the culture that you want. But if it's genuinely about, I want you to grow, I want you to be the best version of who you are, and so I'm going to give you that feedback with that in mind, I think that's your starting point with that. So a strategy that is aligned from top down, and then look at where and how are you creating spaces for this. So if I think about the clients that I've got, we'll maybe do it in pockets, and we will start and we will do like a day or 2 days around team effectiveness, understanding each other's behaviors, understanding what are those behaviors, where are they coming from, and then actions. What are my personal commitments and actions that I'm going to take away and work on? So you might want to do it individually, or you might want to do it in groups. But I think you need a very clear strategy on what you want to do. And I'm very happy to have a conversation with you if you need one.
Cheryl, we've got a question from Judy Chessie. If you can open up your Q&A and just go through that with her, please.
Okay, Judy,
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to put my glasses on for 1 sec as we change and become bedded. Okay, very nice question there, Judy. So the question from Judy, if I understand what you're saying, is, if we change and we are really trying to work hard at being, leaders that are able to manage our emotions, how do we then best cope with staff themselves who are stuck in repetitive behaviors and unwilling to change? I think there are two things that come to mind very quickly on that. The first one I would say is that ensuring that we are effectively coaching that person through the behavior. So what's going on for you? This is the behavior that I'm observing. This is the behavior I'm seeing. This is the impact of that behavior, so that the person doesn't see you as just victimizing them. But then if the person is unwilling to change, then I think you're in a different conversation with that person. If you've genuinely made them aware of their behavior, you made them aware of the impact of that behavior on others around them, and they're still not prepared to genuinely at least work on those behaviors. Remember, behavior takes time. We judge ourselves by our behavior, by our intentions. Other people judge us by their experience of your behavior. And so it takes longer for people to see the change. But if that person's genuinely trying to change and you can see that, then you're on the right track. If they are not prepared to work at it, I think you're in a different conversation then with them. And I think leaders mustn't shy away from going, you do not conform. You're not behaving in a way that is part of the culture and the behaviors that we're trying to drive in this business. And I think you're in a different conversation then. Okay, Judy, I hope that gives you some insights there. I know we are probably out of time. Am I right in saying that we've hit our hour?
Okay, we've got 1 minute left. I believe this team has
Ollie,
another question.
It's Tanween again, yes.
Yes.
Just so following on Judy's question and Cheryl's answer, specifically on the part where you have a conversation with a team member to say that their behavior and the effect of their behavior on themselves and as well as the team and the overall, but the part where you said if the person is not willing to change, that is a different conversation. But how different in just a quick outline as to the strategy to adopt there, please, if you don't mind.
Yes, okay, sure. So from my perspective, and here I'll put my HR hat on here, I'd say, we deal with, there's conduct, which you'll have a code of conduct. The person's, either their conduct is either in line with that code of conduct that you have, or it's not. Behavior, performance can be looked at from two sides. So my performance improvement plans, often it's the what and the how. So it's what I'm doing, but it's also how I'm doing it. And I would say that as an organization, you want to make sure that you are talking into both of those. So I might be doing what I'm doing, like I'm shooting the lights out, but while I'm doing it, I'm knocking every single person out in my path. Well, is that what I want for my business? And so that's where I think performance improvement plans should adopt a what and a how, and your strategy should be that. So, for example, I might say to you, my perception of you at the moment is, yes, you are delivering your results and you're achieving your targets. How you're going about doing it is having a huge impact on this team. And I would start conversations and I would adopt my performance improvement plan process with very focused on the how in those conversations. These are the behaviors that I need to see together with the delivery of your performance. And if I don't see improvements in this behavior, that may result in further action needing to be taken, which may result in dismissal because you are not conforming to the behavior, the culture, the way of working that we ascribe to in this business. Is that clear for you? So I would adopt the performance improvement plan as my strategy.
Yes, thank
What
you.
and how.
Yes, I think that sums it up so nicely. Many thanks for that.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for the good questions. Very helpful. Good. Anything else? I'm going to have to leave. I just want to maybe is worth doing, if I may, just to say, here's my contact details. I'm putting it up there. If anybody has got questions that they would like to explore further, please feel free to get in touch with me. There's obviously so much in a topic like this that can be covered. But I hope today has at least given you some food for thought and some insights into what effective behavior looks like and why we do the things we do. And just want to say thank you for the opportunity of being here with you all today.
Thank you, Cheryl. It was really great having you join the HR Talk team of panelists. And if you guys need to get a hold of Cheryl, please pop HR Talk email and I'll be sure to send Cheryl's details through. Thank you, Cheryl. Have a lovely day further.
Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks very much.